Oh, is
This
that Barb?
conference
Hey,
will now be
Barb.
recorded.
There we
Anyone
go.
else going to share their screen today? Carolyn,
Don't be
Chris.
shy. Don't be shy.
Come on, guys. Carolyn, Chris, we can't see you. There we go.
There,
There's
I got it.
Chris. Nice.
Had to
So
find
welcome everybody. It's May. It's time to get out and train and think about impulse control. spring fever crazies, right?
That's true.
That's true. So we've been compiling a list of fun games for impulse control and hoping that we'll add some more to our list today. And maybe we can get this posted up on the website and get some videos to also to show new people how the exercises work. But so I thought I'd just read through what we got so far and then chime in at any time if you have something similar, and then we'll also leave time at the end to just do general training. So we kind of introduced where we were from. Karen, is this your first time?
I think I took part in a chat last year at some point. I can't remember when.
Yeah, your name did look familiar. Cool. All right. So let's see. So this is what we've been coming up with. So first of all, when people just get started with Treibball, their dogs may just completely lose their minds even around the balls. So we've come up with a list of exercises for stationary balls and rolling balls to get them used to thinking that they can keep there she is. Hi, Carolyn. They can keep their mind, not lose their mind when they're around balls, and it's not all about pushing the ball, it's doing lots of stuff. So we've got for first impulse control exercise is just weaving on a heel, or approximate on a heel, a loose heel, around scattered balls, and continuing to be able to pay attention to the handler. Then sits and stays around scattered balls. Then doing a sit to a down near the balls, maybe adding a stay, getting some distance, and then doing a sit stay, and then seeing if they'll go from a sit stay to a down in the middle of a big group of balls. So just keeping them thinking. Recalls around balls, either from a stay or doing step back and call recalls, so that then can teach them to go past a ball. That every time they go past the ball, they don't have to give it a side swipe with their nose. And for my dog in particular, that was a really big issue. I should have been doing all of these exercises that first year, and I wasn't. Oh well, live and learn. So then we've been thinking about rolling balls and how that is another thing to bring into the training. And so doing stays while a ball rolls far away, closer, right in front of their nose. So there's a lot of room there for practicing impulse control. And then I put downs. I meant like from sit to down. So from a sit to a down with rolling balls. So could they actually hear that command to go from sit to down while the ball is moving? And you can have your students work up to it, or have your dogs work up to it by, first moving the ball a little bit, and then a little bit more, having it be farther away, having it be closer. So those are some getting used to balls in general ideas. Anybody have any other things they've been doing in those kinds of exercises?
Picking the ball up and then physically putting it down somewhere else with the dog staying still.
Oh. So wait a minute, I'm sorry, Barb, I'm having a moment where I just can't even picture what you're saying. So describe that again for me.
As Karen,
so your
actually,
dog...
where you're asking the dog to hold a stationary, a sit, or a down, or a stand, and you pick up the ball and you physically carry it somewhere else and then put it down. Say, for instance, you've got your balls out there in a nice arrangement, and the wind comes along and moves one, and you need to put it back.
Okay, right. Okay, great. And then at that point, then you would say back away and then direct them to whatever ball you wanted to or something.
Yeah.
Oh, great. I love that. Okay. And then someone else had something.
I have one that I do. Once I've got my stationary balls and control, I like to put him at one end of the ring for a recall. And as I call him to me, I roll the ball out. So he has to come to me as the ball is rolling away from me.
Right. Okay. So
that he's got his motion and the ball motion that he's got to deal with, because that's where he loses his mind.
Right. So recall with the ball rolling.
So I recall to him, and as he starts to me, I've got the ball next to me, and I give it a push. So he's coming into me as the ball is going away from me.
Right. So the ball's rolling parallel to the dog, right? But opposite.
Right. Exactly.
Oh dear, someone's at my door. Cool. You guys keep talking among yourselves.
I love that, Marianne. I couldn't even imagine doing that. I'm working with my border collie, trying to kick balls, push balls, and then also working with my Chihuahua at this. I'm doing like team Treibball stuff, and he absolutely cannot stand it because he can't. He just like, you're not doing it right, and he gets so he'll sit there. Maybe I can get like 2 balls, but then he's like, just forget it. Let me get them, and he get. So I'm just imagining doing this. What you're saying. I don't know.
Well, I start off by pushing it more to the side. So I work up to where the ball is going straight out as he's coming straight in.
Yeah.
You build it up in layers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm going to try that. It's going to take a while.
Great, you guys. Awesome.
And I have an exercise as well. I actually send my dog behind the ball to a stand or a sit or a down, and then I call them away from the ball without having them interact with it at all. And sometimes that's a challenge, and sometimes it's not.
So I have that down here. Call off, right? So
I can only see part of the page, so sorry about that.
I see. No, that's okay. That's all right. You're jumping ahead of me, and I had paused my screen. So here we go. Then I made another section of waiting behind the ball. So call offs, treat tosses behind, alternating with a push and directionals, and so lots of options behind the ball, and not just always go out, wait, push.
I set up several balls next to each other, probably about 2 feet apart, and usually 3 balls, and send them out to one, then move them to the next, and then move them to another one, and randomly let them push.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
It's sort of a call off.
Yeah, you can set the balls.
Directionals plus pushing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done setting the balls in a line like a set of weave poles and having the dog going out and around and coming back.
Yeah.
Like weave poles, like a whole row of balls, and then you have them go.
Yeah, with about 4 or 5 feet between. So you're just walking parallel to the balls with the dogs. You send them out between one and call them back between another.
Oh, nice.
So you're like doing a go around the ball, like.
Yeah, it's just a very close distance. That was with my dog who passed away. I'm starting 2 young dogs who are not even remotely there yet.
That's cool. I want to write that one down. And can you describe it a little bit more to me? What that would be?
Imagine you've got 5 balls set in a straight line with about 4 to 5 feet between them. And so you and the dog are walking in heel position, and you send the dog out between one ball and call back between another to go down the line.
Do you have them stop behind the ball or just keep going around it?
They could. So there's a variety of different things you could do, but it's certainly about the dog being able to stay focused on you with such a close proximity to the ball.
I'd like to see a video of that.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was just going to say. Can you do a video of that for us?
With my two guys, right now might be a little interesting. With my older guy who passed away, yes, definitely I could have. I might be able to do it with my young guy.
I have an idea. Get a human and have them pretend to be the dog, and then we can see what you're talking about.
Dogs actually might be more obedient, though.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. What else did I have here? For waiting behind the ball, I have tricks behind the ball. And then orientation reinforcement games using a platform or a mat, making high value for the position behind the ball without pushing. Those are, I think that's what I had. Any other ideas for impulse control for waiting behind the ball?
You could have the dog go behind a ball and then you walk around the outside of leaving the dog and the ball in the center.
Yeah. So the dog would be changing the orientation, right, to stay with the ball between you.
Yes. Or the dog could just stay
while
you basically satellite around them. They'll probably make the dog swivel in place, but.
Because if my dog was behind the ball on the other side and I moved, I'd want them to reorient, right? And
yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So distance balancing, or is what we would call that, or reorienting, maybe. Cool. That's a good one.
For waiting behind the ball, I'll sometimes, depending on if a dog was reluctant to push, or we worked a lot of pushing to get the dog to push, and then all of a sudden now it's like a really aggressive pusher. So that balance between like, yeah, we want you to push in the ball, to where then all of a sudden now you have to stop because you want to redirect to another ball. So I tend to use an obstacle like a cone if the dog just can't control itself, is put something in between the handler and the dog, and well, the handler and the ball, like reintroduce like a cone or an object behind the ball so that they can't push it, or put it up on a crate or a pedestal where they can't reach it, so that, because I find that to be one of the harder thing is to get the dog actually, with some of the breeds, actually to push the ball. So we work a lot on doing that, and then all of a sudden now they want to push so hard, now we have to go back and say no, you can't, and try to redirect them. So I for behind the ball, I sometimes will put I really like the cones, or they seem to work really well as like a way that the ball is still in the picture but that they can't physically push it, and then wean it out. That's not the ideal way because you have to wean that off. But I think it's been very effective for dogs that were confused. Instead of like verbally correcting, like, no, don't do that, or it teaches them that the ball's still in the picture, but there actually is a boundary, so they can't physically push it. So that's.
Let me make sure I understood. The cones between the ball and the dog, right?
Yeah, so it would go dog, cone, ball. Yeah, so just something to actually block them if they're really having a hard time where they just absolutely cannot stop pushing the ball. But I find that was, not necessarily a teaching thing, but people in classes, they tend to want to get to pushing the ball right away. So we often, that was they don't want to wait to do the, hey, let's work up to that. They want to get to the fun stuff, which is the pushing. So I found myself having to correct the over pushing. So anyway, that's where the waiting behind the ball became secondary.
Right.
So, because the pushing's so much fun for the person
because it's much more fun, yeah. So.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't had a chance yet to tell Harriet that I made some of her rings out of garden edging.
Oh, good.
And they're working beautifully for that problems, basically. So whenever we're working on not pushing with the beginning dogs, we're putting the balls in those edgings, and then they can't, they can't push.
Yeah.
So okay, so then all right, we're working on not pushing. So just bring back the edging for all those beginning dogs or anyone who's shown any sign of over pushing and not listening.
Yeah, they work for me too.
Yeah,
I will use what I call dead balls that aren't really holding the air anymore, so they're real flat, but they still look like balls. They're just maybe more like lumps. So if a dog's really having trouble, I'll put that out there. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's still a ball, but the dog doesn't get really reinforced for pushing because it's like hitting a jelly mold or something. Blah. So if the dog does break, they don't get the reward that the ball goes anywhere. It's just like, oh, that didn't get me anything. Or we'll also put balls in things like milk crates or something. So it's there, it's visually there, but they don't get that reward of they pushed it and off it went. Now what do you do? Chase them or yell or whatever, stuff that doesn't work so well. So something that it still kind of gives the picture, but the dog doesn't get that reinforcement of I pushed and it went somewhere. See, somebody like that.
Hey Chris, like what are you doing to your balls that you have so many dead balls? I've never lost a ball.
I think it's thistles. I have some really nasty thistle plants, or up against my wood fence, and
all right, yeah.
So I usually can't see the holes, but I mean, I can find little.
All right, that reminds me
in them.
That reminds me to be grateful for the amazing field that Sandy Pensinger has created out here, and that's just this amazing grass, and yeah. All right, any more waiting behind the ball ideas before we go to the next fun category, which this is courtesy of Chris. Weird things on the field.
Oh yeah.
So the idea with that one was that weird things on the field. So just think whatever things they aren't used to being there. So situation always depends on what you've been practicing with, but putting other things on the field sometimes shows the handler how much trouble their dog's actually having with that whole impulse control. Things really go to pot when weird stuff shows up on the field. Yeah, so the idea is put some other stuff, even if it's just people on the field, a chair, a box. I've used put big stuffed animals.
Yeah, I was gonna say big stuffed animals are real weird.
Yeah, it's weird, and so it's about pushing. It's just giving something else for the dog to think about, and sometimes you see just how much trouble it is.
Well, it's a really good point because we train every week and things are pretty much how they are, and then when something new happens and everything falls apart, and we don't have live competitions going yet, but we've got to build up our dog's ability to continue working in unique environments, and certainly having a stuffed animal appear on the field to watch them play their game. I mean, we've actually had issues with dogs when we haven't practiced enough having the person standing at the side videotaping, like because they're not even used to somebody standing there, and then all of a sudden you start to film your first run and the dog just runs over to the videographer and then it's all over. You go,
well familiar with that. I'm a trial photographer for NACSW, the National Association for Canine Scent Work, and I'm very careful about watching how the dogs handle my presence when they're out there doing their search work. Some dogs just check in and go like, oh, I don't care. And other dogs like, I see you. So I'll put the camera down. I'm just not filming your run. But yeah, anything new and novel.
Yeah.
Flappy
All right,
stuff.
any other weird things on the field ideas for
Flappy towel.
Flappy towel. I love that. Yeah, like on a stick or something.
Yeah, a stick or hanging over a chair and it's windy.
Like that. And
I have a blow-up clown.
That's scary. Right there.
From Amazon for like $13. That heater, it's about 4 feet high and it blows back and forth in the wind.
That'd freak me out.
Oh my gosh. and when Carolyn said birds, I was thinking, at Halloween it'd be a great time to bring out some Halloween decorations and plant them around the field, like those skeleton dogs
or something. Yeah, that makes a random noise. Yeah, motion sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be one of a giant spider that starts talking.
Yeah, it comes out of
that
the
might be a little
can.
much.
Yeah.
Actually, I have
playing that game
I have
again.
a whole tool shed with those Halloween creatures that Hildegard and Vladimir.
That would be that gives an idea for a Halloween time. Impulse control.
Yeah, that'd be a good video challenge for Halloween this year, Carol.
Yeah,
people could put weird things in the field and then try to work their dogs and see and take a video. Okay.
Oh god.
All right, should we move on from weird things? So the next section is calling your dog off balls. So the sneak peek is, Nate's working on a new game where the dogs will be needing to be directed to particular balls in order before they push them. And so this is something we're all thinking about that we haven't really had to work too much on is, how do we get them to stop pushing a ball that they've started to push? And so that's severe impulse control. And so doing a drop while healing around stationary and rolling balls, doing a drop on recall around stationary and rolling balls, walking on from a ball they're behind and going to a different ball that's forward, and then working up to ball call-offs where you actually yell out a down or some sort of stop command, and then toss a toy or a treat off to the side. And then working up to a ball call-off where you actually can then send them to a different ball. And so I don't know if anyone's been working on any of this type of impulse control, that they might have some more stuff to add in here.
Nancy Tanner's World Treibball League.
Yeah.
I competed in that for a number of years. And believe me, there's a lot of challenges in that.
Cool. Do you have a simple that would be good for our, just training list?
I'd have to think about it. So what category are we looking at for
calling off balls? So, so let's say they've gotten behind a ball and they've given it one, they're starting to push it.
Yeah.
Maybe giving it one push and you're trying to get them to stop, because if that ball comes in, you get a penalty.
Yeah, I would. So the dog's got to have a good understanding of a verbal weight.
Sure.
And then being able to do a recall and then direct them off to another direction. So there's a couple of skills that need to be in place first, as well as being able to do it at a distance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think we're presuming here that it's a situation where the dog's broken their weight behind the ball, and are pushing the ball, that they're not supposed to be. Then we've got to work up to that skill of being able to, just because you started to push a ball doesn't mean you get to bring it in all the way.
Right.
I see this happen a lot when the dog's on the point ball and it goes over the other balls, and then it starts pushing another one, not intentionally. It was on the point ball, but that's where you do see it a lot, and it's just because the dog it thinks it's the same ball. I mean, that's where I think I've seen it the most, is that they don't intentionally bringing in a wrong ball. It was that they were on the ball, but then this one popped in front and then they're just go with it. Some dogs will correct themselves, but a lot don't. So that's I know that's a situation where I've been in the most, where just another ball got in front of them and they kept pushing. So it's hard to do because they're just in full blown. This is the ball I'm supposed to bring in. There's all these other, and I honestly can't. I've been working on my Chihuahua, and it will take me. They'll eventually do it, but it's not just like wait. One little wait isn't gonna do it. It's just they're so. And maybe that's more training on my part, but from what I've seen in other videos, I've seen other dogs when they're in that hyperdrive with their heads down and they're pushing, and they think that's the right ball. It's difficult to do. So if anybody else has any, I tend to go, I give a weight, and then it's like then I'll have to say no, or something more extreme, like a full out like wave of my hand, get their attention to pull them off. But and that's a distance. But go ahead. If I'm looking for suggestions too. I mean,
what I've been. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What I've been doing with Deacon is setting him up with one ball, letting him start to push it, yelling wait, and then almost immediately whipping out the bumper and throwing it back behind him, so that there's a huge incentive for him to wait, because his beloved bumper is going to go flying by and he can retrieve it.
Oh, so his
he's going from arousal to arousal. I'm never trying to bring him out of crazy.
Yeah.
I think his bumper is one level higher than pushing a ball in terms of a reward.
That's interesting. That's a good idea. I never even thought of thinking. Yeah. Train it with something that's either the same value or higher, or actually higher.
Right. Marianne, do you practice that where you give a push cue and then you yell wait and then you throw the bumper, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So you've got to actually set them up to practice it, and you can start close and you can have it,
it's all a game. You get one push, you get a retrieve, you get to push, you get a retrieve.
All right, Marianne, we need a video of that one.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I like that. I was really even thinking, I was just like, okay, that he knows the redirection, or they both do that. I just need to yell louder. But no, I wasn't even thinking that's awesome, Marianne. I think that makes complete sense. Just reward it and set them up in those situations. Because sometimes, and Barb, you know this from being in Montana, we get those winds too, that I'll have the dogs will be on a ball pushing in, and all of a sudden a wind comes, then the two balls go flying, and they're like, wait, that one's moving, I got to go get that one. So because it's like sheeping away and they're getting away, by Border Collie especially, that he can't stand, and he's like, well, those are more important because they're going that way. But I like that. That's setting up the situation. That's great. Good job, Marianne.
Thank you.
All right. Well, any other ideas for any other impulse control exercises in these categories or other categories? Or
the only other impulse control thing I do every time I go down, since I've got 2 dogs, is I brought a table into my ring so that one dog can always wait on the table, and I have very short sessions so that one gets to wait and watch, and then I call them off and send the first dog to the table. And I think it not only builds impulse control, but it builds a lot of desire, because they're hanging on the table waiting for their turn. And with my young dog, I started it with the table with an X pen around it so he couldn't make a mistake and come out and join us.
Yeah.
Oh. So those of us who only have one dog, but we could certainly do that if we have teammates who are working.
Yeah.
Right.
Watching other dogs work, I guess, would be the category, maybe, or
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. After I was just at a agility trial all weekend, and it's amazing. You see these dogs that could be solid, and you get one dog that's off to the side that just is going ballistic for someone or walking by, or how it just changes. How one dog even just be in the audience, or if a dog before or after, changes the game for that dog completely. So if there's a way to, like Marianne says, that I know when I do the classes is to simulate having barking dogs or people walking by, or because you need to be able to work in those situations, and it's kind of hard to control it because no run's the same, no situation's the same. It's just
right.
So yeah, having other dogs present, definitely. I know I have the luxury of being able to work at a place where they do agility, and there's always something else going on. But some days you'll have a barking dog will be on the agility field, blah, 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 and you have people going in and out of the building, and just the level of intensity of how my game that's being played is dramatically changed. Just
right.
because now I have to take into account, like, what's that person going to do? You know, a door's going to slam, a dog's going to bark here. It's just, I'm more concerned of trying to get them unfocused from the outside stimulus more than actually playing. It's a big part of it. It really is. And I don't think, I think it's something that's under stressed. Even when I started agility at a trial, I was like, oh, I'm ready for this. The first time I'm like, oh my God, my dog is a mess. I'm a mess. You know, my anxiety is high, and it really is, after doing it for a while. But even when we have the luxury of doing video titling too, but there's always situations like people closing a door or a neighbor yelling, or so yeah, outside stimulus. And I think one thing I would like to add with the stimulus control, I guess it would depend on what kind of breed you had too, what the stimulus is that's distracting. You know, a Labrador might not be able to stand another person because they're so friendly, I got to go say hi. Whereas a Border Collie wouldn't care, but they can't stand something moving. Or a Terrier, a treat was left there 3 weeks ago and I'm going to go find it. So, right, there's different stimulus is going to depend on the control that you need to train. So, one thing
so
that may affect one dog.
If somebody doesn't have a busy training field, they could go to a park and set up a little, you know, bring one ball and.
Yes. So I think, yeah, what my idea of what's training a real stimulus control situation is to bring just one ball someplace that we never go and try to just do one ball. I think that more than going to the same field I always go to and try to simulate something, is just bring a ball and try to do the same exercises.
Oh, didn't you practice on the beach?
Yeah, that's and I'll take so I did bring to the beach, and I don't even bring a ball to those. Well, I can't because it's so windy, but I'll take a couple cones or a mat and go out down and, you know, simulate some of the commands I would do, but just and I keep mats and cones in my car all the time for that reason. It's just so let's see if you can do it here. I know you can listen to me there, home in my backyard or at the field, but can you do the same same thing here? More than
what about out in like nature, like in a forest? You know,
I'll make my dogs do line up behind a tree when we go hiking. But because it's different, you got squirrels, you got other dogs, you got a river that he wants to go jump in. You got, now let's see if you can do it here. It's going to be a lot harder. So so I think my point is, like, stimulus control, but is between dog owner. Also breeds are going to have, the hounds are going to have more trouble with the smells on a field than a sight hound would. So I think all those things have to come into play more than just like stationary. It's important to practice with the ball, but I found that it becomes to be, especially when my students, they don't work on the field as much as I do, and there was a puppy class for before, and those treats that the dogs are absolutely, they can't, oh my gosh, what was just here? They're more worried about what was going on or the smells than they are about.
Right, staying focused.
Staying focused, I guess, yeah.
Wow, great stuff, you guys.
Life in the real world.
Yeah, the real world.
Real world. Let's see. Yeah, what about going like on a busy city street or like a square kind of situation is what I mean. Like a, you know what I mean? Like a plaza.
Yeah, that's why places like PetSmart are so great, because you could bring your dog.
Ooh, yeah.
Or
A dog, pet store.
Yeah,
That's
Home
great.
Depot. Yeah, just to try and do it like a downstay through a.
Yep.
I don't know about rolling a yoga ball down Home Depot, but
that'll get a lot of.
That would be a cool challenge, though. I like it.
You could bring a rolled up, thin yoga mat, put it at the end of one of the aisles, and
Yeah. I think
send out.
That would be really fun, actually.
20, 30 feet send outs in Home Depot. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a video for you there, Carolyn. All right. Any other ideas, folks? Chris?
No. I was just thinking the training outside sometimes. I'll say if they're worried about their dog getting away, look for maybe a tennis court that's fenced and not in use.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go work there and you're outside, but you're not worried about your dog leaving the country on you.
Right. You can always use a long line, but that's
also training in the rain. So if you're always
training, weather.
Yeah, if you're just training in fair weather, if you go outside and do it where the dog's a little bit environmentally challenged.
Yeah, we have one dog who hates the wet grass.
Yeah.
Well, so she's like, I don't want to work. The balls are wet.
Well, Nancy Tanner's World Treibball League starts in September and runs through to February. So it's frequently you're playing in the snow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have some wild videos. Yep. I have some wild videos in the snow and whatever.
Yeah. Does add a different element.
Thanks for that. That bad weather. That's a good one.
I like that. Environmentally challenged.
Yeah.
It's good. Maybe even simulate, like you have a fan blowing.
Yeah.
On some balls. And
yeah, the balls sitting there rocking individually.
Yeah. Training and outside stimulus.
Barb, Harriet, you guys have anything else to add? Marianne?
No, I don't think so.
Nope. Your neighbor's having a cookout next door.
What was that?
Ooh.
Your neighbor's having a cookout next door to where you're training.
Food, yeah.
Luckily, my yard is fenced, but yes, last weekend my entire area was swamped with cookout smells.
Training next to a barbecue.
Yeah.
So is that impulse control for the human or the dog?
Yeah, exactly. It smells really good.
Okay.
Well, talking about neighbor distractions, Mike Sheltie hates the neighbor's dog. Hates the neighbor's dog. So if I can keep him on the ball when the neighbor's dog is out back, we're doing awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we've really covered it, you guys. We got ourselves a nice list here to share. Thanks, everybody, for all your ideas.
New things to torture your dog with. Or us.
So anybody want to throw out some training questions or shares, thoughts, ideas?
Well, this shouldn't seem to be new to anybody, but in the last class I had, when the dogs sort of figure out they have to push with the side of their face sometimes to bring the ball straight to you. And I had one dog who really wasn't getting it. It was a Keesund, 9 years old, and she wasn't getting that. So if the ball would go away, she didn't really know how to get it back. So I just suggested that the owners start practicing at home in a hallway, because we practice a lot of things in a hallway. And she said her wasn't very long, but she had a hallway. And the next week she came and she was so happy because her dog started pushing with the side of her face when it would go too far to one side of the hall. So that's, I'm going to tell everybody to just train in the hall.
Yeah, or having
good idea.
Ball out of a corner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. This dog. Okay. So I should tell you that the owner of this 9-year-old dog is 84. Okay.
Oh, wow.
She's had everything replaced she could have replaced. She's my role model. Okay. And she's also in an agility class with a 2-year-old Keeson. Oh, she's quite the woman. But she's also somebody you always have to explain why, which is, I think, good for us. But she's also first to say it's not going to work. Not going to work. So I was so super pleased when the hall did work.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was common knowledge, but it turned out it wasn't.
I've tried the hallway, the one little hallway I have in my house, but it's on tile. And one push and that ball is from one to the end. So it hasn't really helped me teach her to keep pushing towards me. She just hits it and it goes 20 feet.
You know what I do with that when we're working in class in a home, even if they push it to you in one push because you're starting out really slow, I ask them to push again before I touch the ball and they're treated. So even if it didn't go very far or even at all, if it's pushing at your legs the second time, always ask for a second push. And then you've got a better start on that when you start having more distance where you need the second push for a third.
Okay, that makes sense.
You might also try one of those carpet runners, the rubbery things to keep the carpet in place, and put that down on the tile hallway to slow the ball down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's a good idea.
That's good. And then we talked the last time, I think, about putting some kind of little bumps, like speed bumps, somewhere so that it would actually, the ball would actually stop and need multiple pushes. So if you had, like, I don't know what you could put, some little hand towels that are bunched up down the hallway so that it would stop on one of those hand towels and then need to get another push.
Yeah, I went to our local.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea.
Got a whole bunch of socks and just
socks
and just filled them up with other socks.
And that's a good idea.
Yeah, or pantyhose, I guess, if anybody wears those anymore.
I thought those were for gardening, for tying up plants.
Yes.
I know. I think I have one pair left from a wedding from like 10 years ago. Hey, Karen, tell us about your classes and what you got going on there on Martha's Vineyard.
Not really too much right now. I had a number of people who were sort of doing it a few years back and then kind of petered out. And so I'm currently starting 2 of my dogs in. They're both Goldens. One's 2.5 and the other is about 5 months. So we're just starting back at the beginning again. My Aussie, who passed away in February, was the dog I'd done a lot of Treibball with. So we're having to go back to the very beginning. But I actually had somebody the other day who called and wanted to get started in Treibball with their Aussie Poodle cross. So we started on.
Do you teach other classes?
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of private work, but I have a group of people who meet year-round for doing the canine nose work, and we dabble a little bit in agility as well.
Cool.
I really try to promote the Treibball because it's great for working on impulse control and distance and directionals and a lot of other stuff. That's you sort of get it down there and you can use it in many different ways and stuff.
Well, I think it's just great for old people and old dogs. And
oh yeah,
one of the I am now an old person. My dog's not old, but I am. And I do have a young person in my class with the 84. But she also has a 9-year-old Aussie, and she used to do agility and do agility trials, but the dog can no longer do it. And not going to class and not doing agility, the dog started becoming depressed. So she thought she would try Treibball. And after just a few lessons, the dog not only was working well with the Treibball, was also started playing at home. It hadn't been playing.
Aww.
But since it got back to training, then it just seemed like it got a new life again. So that's just another thing I found Treibball to be good for, is waking up the old dogs.
Well, it's definitely mentally stimulating because they have to do a lot of brain work to do it. So you also get a nice tired dog after a training session.
Do you have hour sessions or 50-minute sessions? I've been doing hour sessions, but I have a couple of dogs that check out after 50 minutes, and I just wondered if you had shorter classes.
We run an hour-long cast, but usually what we do is, we're doing a little bit of work, and then, the dogs are having a break and then coming back, so it's not like they're working the whole time.
Yeah, I have breaks too.
Definitely burn out, particularly with the dogs that aren't quite as motivated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's optimal to have shorter training sessions, but when you're like getting your new people there and people are kind of used to that hour-long, format, it's probably not best for the dog or the person necessarily, but it's kind of, to get in that first 6 weeks or 8 weeks of information and get them going.
One of the things I always do in any of my classes is not just the class content we're working on, but also working on the concept of what you do with your dog when you're not doing something else, which is basically the dog staying, focused on you and calm and under threshold. So I have a game I call Dinner and a Movie, which basically means dinner is the conversation you're having with your dog, and movie is everything and anything that's going on in the world around you. So the dog it's basically classical conditioning. His dog is paid for just simply watching people move by or watching the dog over there who's playing tug with their owner. What I'm really working to develop is the dog being able to look at a distraction and then check back in with you. And I find it helps keep their brains quite settled because it gives them something, as opposed to focusing on something they're not allowed to get to. So it gives them an alternate behavior besides being frustrated about what they're not allowed to go and do at the moment.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Which then means when they go out to work, they're actually ready to work, as opposed to you having to bring their brain back in from somewhere in outer space.
All my students have been agility people, so they're used to taking their crate to class. So they just automatically bring their crate to Treibball class. And so, work a little bit, and then the dog goes to the crate, and people sit on their bucket next to the crate for a few minutes, and they come back again.
Yeah, that's good, because it gives the dogs downtime. They get to process what they just did. Then they come out and they're, ready to go again.
Yeah.
Also gets them a little bit out of the high stimulation of other stuff going on around them.
Yeah, that works well for my dog, though. Interestingly enough, one of our other dogs on our team, her dog really loses motivation if it has breaks. The only way it really will feel that she's felt success with taking breaks is if she's got the dog like on her lap and she's like, interacting and giving it love. And then, then it's okay, but otherwise it really works best for her, for the dog to not, if the dog goes into the crate, it'll come out and it won't work the rest of the time. Really interesting. So, and yeah, it's the opposite for me.
Yeah.
So not every dog loves their crate, but I love the crate.
Yeah, crates are a great invention.
So let's see, Bar, you want to check in and see how you're doing? How close are you to submitting for pre-novice, or are you going to skip pre-novice and go straight to novice?
Oh, I don't think we'll skip it. I think we'll give it a try. She's doing pretty well. It's the pushing over a distance, but I am getting her out in the backyard, 2 balls 20 to 25 feet away from me, which is a big deal for us.
That's awesome.
And
Well, you're
so
ready for pre-novice then, because that's 1 ball at a time, 20 feet.
well, we'll get there. I need to retire is my problem. I've got several nosework trials and I teach several classes a week in addition to my day job. And now I'm trying to plan a trial for nosework later in the year. So I just say I need to win the lottery and retire.
That's
and I have
it. That's what we all need to do. It's just one simple thing we're at, right?
Yeah,
It
Is that?
but we're close. I think we're going to give it a try.
That's
We're
really
eagerly
what it
awaiting.
comes to.
I think the main thing we're working on with her right now is the pushing the ball all the way back to me. Because she'll push it a couple of times and she says, well, this is too slow. I'm going to hit it like a baseball and it goes off to the side. And so we're going to work the hallway with speed bumps and I think that will help.
Cool. Yay.
And
Take some video of that, Barb. That would be fun to see.
Yeah. I always touch the ball before I reward them, a treat or a toy, so that they understand that if I don't get to touch that ball, there's no reward in it. And that really helps get my dog and some other dogs to understand the ball has to come to you, and it's no good if it goes out in left field because I can't touch it. So
nice.
Good way to do it.
Yeah, and then we do the ball touches our legs, and that's when the marker word and reward comes.
Yeah, right. So I do my hand, but your legs,
you do a
hand.
Same thing. Yeah. Cool. Anybody else have any thoughts, ideas, questions to chime in with before we close?
Oh, it's that time.
Yeah.
Topics.
Does anybody have any aggressive dogs they're teaching?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dog.
You mean a truly aggressive or reactive?
I guess probably reactive.
Yeah,
but
I have 2 aggressive dogs.
Yeah, I have one too. I'm teaching that one privately. I wasn't sure I could handle it in a group.
Yeah, that would be safest.
My Augie was highly dog reactive, and we did do classes with Diana Stearns, and I had to haul my own ring gates down and Goodwill sheets, and we made a little alley. So if he could hear them and he was fine. It was if he saw the other dogs. He's not aggressive at all, but he would launch over a threshold and would take about 20 minutes to come back down. And so having the visual barrier and just working in very, very tiny steps has helped him.
Yeah, this dog is reactive both to dogs and people. Happily, it likes me, but she's trying to teach us some focus.
Yeah, focus is important, but I find what's more important is that the dog can make the choice to disengage on their own, as opposed to us demanding the focus, because that's just putting more stress on the dog. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is important for the dog to respond to some sort of a focus cue, but I want the dog to be able to look at, one of its triggers and go like, nah, I'm not interested in that. Yeah. That's a little bit safer in the long run, because otherwise I find you're just kind of piling stress on top of the cake.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get pushing the ball just to be a game and not necessarily make it a Treibball kind of thing. So she can, get the dog. The dog likes the pushing, so she's hoping she can use that in the house and start getting it to stop going after the mailman, the mailman when the mailman comes to the door, that kind of thing.
Give it another job. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Another job, and that would be
this
is the job.
That's exactly why I kind of started with my border collie. I was doing agility, but he was just like he was going to find something to do, and he was chasing cars, bikes, just 5 months old. I'm like, what the hell did I do? This thing was just a powerhouse and just was going to go after everything. Had no, I don't think, no, he was a street dog. So it's exactly why I got into Treibball for that, because I needed it. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with this dog? How am I going to get him to not chase the mailman, not chase everything? And it really, I can honestly say that Treibball saved that dog from being killed, because if I wasn't going to, if a trainer can't, or me with somebody that had more patience than the average person, if the dog had no chance. Yeah. He was just already had behaviors at 5 months old that most people couldn't handle. So but this gives them, if days I can't get out, I can always know I have that ball to put out, and I can make 15 minutes of mental stimulus for him. And he's like, oh, okay, I did it. Thank you. But if he, right. And he'll come back and he's like, thank you. It's almost just like, thanks for giving me what I was supposed to do today. Because left on his own, and he's still, I don't know if he'll ever get over that, but there is like this thing, I'm a big advocate for this, as far as like bringing it to shelters, and that's why I guess I tolerate the aggressive dogs in my class for that reason, because I know that they need this. The owners need this, to just get by on a daily basis with this dog, to give them this, even if they don't compete or whatever, they need this. Because they can't bring their dog out in public or to a dog park.
Well, that's Augie. Because I adopted him to do agility. The rescue said, oh, he's a great agility prospect. Turns out he hates other dogs. It's like, especially barking,
doesn't fly well.
Dogs. Yeah. Well, he really wasn't, but he was brilliant and athletic and busy, and he needed a job. And he's even been in a couple of ATA trials where they're very strict about no dogs along the side of the field.
Yeah.
And so he can barely hold it together for that, but he can do it. But Treibball and Nosework have just given him an amazing outlet.
Yeah. Yay. Yay for us.
Yeah.
All right, guys, time to wrap it up. So thanks everybody for coming. It was super fun.
Thank you much.
It was great.
Yeah, appreciate all the great ideas, and I'm gonna I'll get this posted somewhere where everybody can see it. So we'll give spread the fun.
Okay, thanks a lot for organizing.
All right, we'll talk to everybody soon.
Good to see everybody.
Bye.
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 See you later.
Bye.